We're also looking forward to Cole actually staying with us for the upcoming match between Eternal and Sinners, because as a speed kid who was assigned to cast in the upcoming game had to pull out. He's feeling very, very unwell, and we are sending our best wishes for recovery and a lot of love towards SSB Kid. We hope you are feeling better soon. This allows us to go into a quick campfire chat between Eternal and Sinners. We are seeing the following three killers: Singularity, Spirit, and Nurse. Honestly, Sinners and Eternal have been handled as S-tier teams, especially after the winter circuit, when Sinners was making it all the way in the top 3, always finding a comeback call. However, in this season, Sinners is at the bottom of the standings, 0% set wins. They haven't taken anything in the first 2 weeks. Will they shine today, or what do you think is not working there at the moment?
I think Sinners have just been really struggling across the board. We have not been seeing really I think the one good performance that we saw from them was Phenom 4K4ing Elysium Survivors on Nurse, but then right after that, Xeno tied it up with a 4K4 of his own, which was a minor tragedy for them. But I think the sets we have are some S tier, so I think that might be the one sort of shining light for Sinners. I do think this is a team that likes playing S tier sets in general. So a little bit of comfort for them, but they really have been struggling across the board. I think even if they weren't playing against Eternal, this would be a rough set or a rough matchup for them anyway. But I think if there's going to be a world where Sinners makes a comeback, takes a set, anything, it would be at least on some of these sets.
Spirit is something they really, really enjoy. Next to Nurse, obviously, you mentioned there the very, very incredible performance by Phenom. I'm just a little bit worried about Sinners because I'm used to a very, very powerful team that is presenting new strategies, that is able to turn a 4K3 from the Winter Circuit on Rakka's Yard from the Mastermind, for example, where everyone in chat even said, like, well, can we not skip this set because they're not going to make it anyway? And then they turned it into a 4K4, something like this. This is something what we miss at the moment. So we really hope that with all the energy they are also bringing in with their community, since Sinners is the only team representing South America and DBDL, we can only hope that they are going to find this fire back. And what would be more perfect than a match against Eternal, because there you can really start shining and you can really show the full potential that you have. We also need to consider that they played against Elysium and they played against Oh-Boy, so they have a lot of difficult matches at the start of the season. Eternal now, so the upcoming matches for Sinners are potentially a little bit easier right here. Starting off with the Singularity though, Cole, I feel like you are an expert for Singularity, since I have my personal grudge against this killer and its game mechanics. What is the most important thing in the competitive setting when you're playing Singularity?
Singularity is one of these killers that really presses your teamwork and your understanding of playing out the map. It's a killer where the chase power is extremely oppressive if you are playing a 1v1. I know that's something that a lot of Survivor players hate about this killer. So you are looking for, much like what we saw in the Cenobite set. It's a very similar kind of thing, just a little bit of a better killer, right? You need to have a teammate nearby to give you a hit when you need it the most. You also want to have someone on deck to pick up those EMPs, to get the slipstream off of you to make the chase less oppressive. And you also at the same time have to be cognizant of, well, when the Singularity is dipping into his cameras, you need to let your teammates know straight away that that's going to happen, so they have an opportunity to position accordingly if they are in danger of being teleported on. We have put Singularity on DDS, Dead Dog Saloon, which is a very, very strong map for him, arguably his strongest. So this is a map where I think a 4K1 is the minimum expectation for the killer player. Most Singularity sets seem to end in this result. So if the survivors are able to pop all gens, they have overperformed. And if they slip up a bit, we can be looking into 4K2 territory. But if this is a set where your teammates are not on point, they are not functioning as a cohesive whole, you are going to suffer.
Thank you for that very detailed and deep picture of the Singularity. We are looking forward to see what Nightlight is going to put up here. Nightlight has given a lot of killers into other hands, for example, Zaka on Team Eternal, but whenever Nightlight then says, well, on this killer, for example, the Mastermind, for example, the famous Nightlight Nurse or the Singularity Nightlight, then you always know, okay, this has a quality stamp. This is the killer, where Nightlight still says, well, this is what I'm taking myself with all my experience from all the years in competitive DBD, and therefore it's always very exciting to see that. We are going to see Bucky, Phenom, Sweet Child, and Wee Jason on the Survivor side here, and that's going to be one hell of a stacked roster. Cole, maybe for the prediction of Sinners and Eternal, we were touching a little bit. We would hope that Sinners is going to play a very successful best of three here. Ultimately spoken, who do you think is going to come out as the winner here today?
I think it should be an Eternal 2-0.
Okay, I have to bet against that, just so I've thrown something else in, but I do think Eternal will take it. I do have some more trust into Sinners, though, because I feel like week 3 should really be the week where they're now starting to shine and really be the time where they are making sure that they are going to find a better position in the standings here. And if it's only a 2-1 loss, it still feels kind of bad, but at least you're increasing your set win percentage a little bit. And that's going to be very, very important here. So we are going to load into the first match of this best of 3 here. Eternal facing Sinners on the Singularity. And ladies and gentlemen, we are not even going on a break. We're pushing right through. This is what we need in terms of hype and enthusiasm, or as you can say, energy and passion here for competitive Dead by Daylight on the late Sunday evening. For some of you, it might be the morning or the afternoon. I'm so hyped. Let's charge our batteries to go into fantastic best of 3 here. Singularity going to come out strong. Cole, we are going to also play on one of the most familiar maps when it comes to Singularity, and also one of the most familiar maps for the teams. They are usually showing us a lot of different strategies on this map. It's a map that can cause a lot of back and forth, a lot of surprising changes. That's why it's one of my favorite maps, and we're going to see the Dead Dog Saloon. Ladies and gentlemen, let's catch it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you this excited to see Singularity gameplay before. But Nightlight is going to go ahead and get his camera set up. One of the things that is sort of solved a bit about this map for Singularity is knowing exactly where to put your cameras to get a good line of sight on these objectives. Now we will see Wee Jason working on this gen with this camera. I don't know if Nightlight is going to commit to him, but he will get a tag, a biopod onto Phenom over on the main building. He will be seeing Wee Jason wrapping around this building. The chase will be starting onto him. Wee Jason will be making it to main building, and look at this, he does have an EMP in hand. He will take a tag through that window and continue to chase main building. I don't know if Nightlight is going to want to commit to that, but keep in mind, all of these biopods on survivors in main can be cleansed by Wee Jason with a single use of that EMP, which is what happens here. So far, Nightlight has a tag, a Sloppy Butcher tag at that onto Wee Jason, and one EMP out of the picture. One thing survivors have to manage a bit is the EMP economy. You don't want to waste them, but you do want to use them as efficiently as possible. And so if you can cleanse yourself and take out a camera, or if you can cleanse multiple of your teammates, that's definitely a good way to start off that match.
Absolutely, getting as much overview of the Survivor team as possible. We do see that Jason is already being put back to healthy, and that's going to be a teleport onto the main building, and Phenom is going to take the injury along with the broken effect, and the next one already coming out quickly going through that breakable wall here. Nightlight not going to take any sort of time waste and not going to be joking around in the early game right around this house here, and that's going to be the first down onto Phenom here. First hook stage coming in on 5 generators remaining, taking an overview as well, and a quick bubble onto the survivor that was in the main building there. Absolutely stunned from how this game is going so far, because Nightlight is coming in and absolutely smashing it.
Yeah, I mean, Nightlight really indexing into the anti-heal, bringing Sloppy Butcher and this Nano Machine Gel to inflict broken on survivors he hits an overclock. He wants to keep survivors injured because he knows in a 3-gen setup on DDS, this is how you secure your snowballs, is you want to keep everyone injured so that you don't have long chases when you catch someone off guard. You have this teleport, which is so punishing if the survivors are, in a vulnerable position. And, I know Nightlight is very much an enjoyer of the 3-gen, 1-hour-long Singularity matches, so this is what he is prepared for, bringing Call of Brine Overcharge here, really indexing on this gen kick, not to mention the Populist Weasel. I am curious to see the reasoning for not going Eruption. Possibly he wants to have just even more gen kicks available, does not want Eruption, giving him the double stack of the gen kick events. This should be now the second hook coming on for Phenom. There's no firecracker left, but there is possibly a flashlight hovering around. No, it will not come through. Sweet Child is just going to leave. This is now Phenom's second hook, and this could be a very early tunnel out, as now Phenom is in the middle of the map, and wherever he goes, Nightlight is sure to be right there. Bucky is slipstreamed as well, running around, and Nightlight has his cameras everywhere. He basically can see everything that's happening on the map, regardless of what the survivors do, and they're going to need to grab some EMPs. As we see, that camera has just been broken, but Nightlight will just quickly replace it, so that did not actually pay off.
And we are going further in here. We Jason on the next chase, and that's going to be the Lithe with enough distance and preventing the injury from happening. This famous main building pallet will be dropped, ending in a stun, and that goes into the unhook, and that's going to change the outcome from a trade and a 1-for-1 instead. Now going to be all survivors running freely. However, Phenom will going to face the tunnel out right here. Nightlight, however, going to stop the generators instead. Sweet Child also going to take the next tag here. Nightlight wants to see everyone injured and immediately keeps teleporting on to the next survivor, and another quick down before reaching this pallet as well, even though I really think Sweet Child is going to throw the PC out of the window after seeing how far that hit him through the pallet right here. Main building action on the side of Sinners here, going for the full reset, and another generator potentially facing completion here. But overall, Nightlight definitely going to decide what's going on in the Dead Dog Saloon here. We can only hope, though, that Phenom is going to be healthy very soon and able to stay away from Nightlight.
Yeah, we see the risk of working gens slipstreamed. Ideally, you'd like to have an EMP on hand so that you can cleanse the slipstream of yourself and disable the camera that spotted you. But when Phenom was taking chase in the main building, he gets the fast fault, but in doing so, he breaks his own line of sight enough that Nightlight was able to quickly dip into his cameras and teleport to Sweet Child before Phenom had time to calm. Hey, I think this guy is in cameras. It just happened so quickly, and that is one of the punishes that can happen if you're caught off guard by the Singularity. Now, Nightlight will be sort of chasing around the main building, but it's still a strong structure to play. No one is slipstreamed, and that's the main thing. Well, okay, now Jason is, but that's the main thing that Singularity has to help him out in chase. If he's just chasing you without having you slipstream, he's a normal M1 killer. He's not very scary. You can have teammates to give hits for you and all of that good jazz. But now Sweet Child will just be using his base kit BT, and I think possibly a babysitter bonus. He's not leaving. No, he is leaving scratch marks, but he will not make very far. There's no DS, so instead we will have a teleport onto Jason and a tag onto him, and possibly Nightlight going back to try and get a pickup onto that slug. But these cameras are coming in to see if he can find anyone else who's out of position. The survivors now have to start getting those resets in. They have to start looking for EMPs if they want to avoid this snowball, because now we're going to have 2 survivors that are going to be on death hook.
Death Hook is the most valuable resource to achieve during a best of, or not even a best of 3. It doesn't matter how many sets we're playing, but it's the most valuable thing to achieve. However, 60 seconds away for that from Sweet Child, just 1 stage away on Phenom. So Nightlight keeps pushing towards that 3v1 and on the Dead Dog Saloon here. We do shoot another bubble onto Bucky. I really don't know how to cast that differently than bubbling the survivors, and that's going to be the injury along with the broken status effect. Right here we are reinstalling our camera to make sure that we have a good overview on the Dead Dog Saloon here. Sweet Child is going to be rescued and we know what's happening. The immediate going forward onto tunneling our beloved survivor here, switching though, but they are going to pull the stealth tag here and being able to pull away from the Singularity and getting out of Nightlight's view. Very important play for Team Sinners here, because you really don't want to lose any survivor that early into the game, and unfortunately we are still early. Even though we have played several minutes for the survivor team, we are just on 2 completed generators, and when switching through their POVs we just saw that there are only a few percentages in the other generator. One of them is being completed, but besides that they are now going to lose a survivor and there's not going to be significant impact on the remaining gens. So Nightlight now in a really dominant position here, and Sinners needs to make sure that they get a few more objectives done here.
Yeah, when we enter into these 3v1 situations, there's 3 main things we want to look at. What's the gen spread looking like? Are the living survivors healthy? And do we have resources left on the map? There is still this portion of the map where there's a lot of resources to work with, some pallets, even though, yes, we have Bucky being a little bit zoned. Nightlight instead wants to take the time while the survivor is stuck here to go ahead and get some cameras, or sorry, some biopods onto the survivors that are working gens elsewhere before continuing his chase onto Bucky. But Nightlight constantly switching between the chase he's in and the cameras to get these biopods all on the survivors. Now ideally he wants to find Phenom even to get an injury, because that is the survivor who is on Death Hook. He is the most vulnerable one. If he can get a 2v1, then there is basically 0 chance survivors get another gen done. And ideally, with this set being almost a guaranteed 4k1, you really want to end this game before the survivors can get 1 more generator done. And we'll have to see if they do that. He does get a tag on someone else, but he's not quite been able to suss out where Phenom is. Actually, now he has all 3 survivors biopoded, and he will be heading to the generator that he is most worried about. And this is a spot where some of the pallets have been really removed. If he can get a Pop Goes the Weasel, this would be extremely valuable. But now we'll have to see if the survivor was able to get away from gen in time. It appears to be the case. The survivors are doing a good job of being hidden for the time being.
Yeah, and this is one of the situations now where Sinners in the winter circuit, to throw up the memories here for the Sinners fans, this is one of the difficult spots where Sinners then pulled the incredible comeback and made happen that they were unexpectedly not handing out a single hook stage anymore, smashing through gens and walking out of the door here. Unfortunately, Nightlight not going to allow that, now going to a slug even to apply further pressure while having Phenom onto the floor here. And it does make a lot of sense because Jason and Bucky, they are injured, so it's going to be a really easy target. Just a very, very smart teleport right here, and that's going to be the down onto Bucky as well. And Jason going to a pretty possible and predictable spot here, picking up the other teammates. So Cole, you talked about guaranteed 4k1, and we can really hope that it will be a 4k1, because this is going to turn slowly into a 4k2, though. We will see what the survivors are doing against it. They would need to try find a moment where they can all pull back and go for a full reset here. Unfortunately, with Nightlight having so many cameras installed on the map here and having such a dominant performance where he doesn't need to worry about the generator pressure at the moment and can simply go for the survivors, trying to locate and trying to chase them, this is going to be really hard to get this wiggle room for a reset.
Yeah, this is the punish for entering the 3v1 with 2 injured survivors, and a good part of the reason why Nightlight indexed so heavily into Sloppy Butcher and this broken add-on. He does not want survivors to be healthy for this exact reason, and now with the hook that he initially had in the generators that he was trying to protect, he can go ahead and kill Phenom here outright. and still play for these two survivors who are injured, but he has the liberty to just slug and try and get some teleports. He can just go for chain slugs here if he wants. He just wants to make sure that these gens are not being progressive, that while he is going to hook and remove Phenom from the match, that there is no gen that's going to pop for that in turn.
Back to shack and basement for Phenom, and we all know what that means. We've said it earlier, one hook stage away from the death, and that's coming out. Now 2 injured survivors standing as well. That's really not what you're looking for. There's going to be the quick hand, and the teleport will not... Oh, it will come through in time before the EMP can do the damage here against Nightlight, and this is not going to work, especially and unfortunately not on South America facing an EU team here. For that, these pallets are not safe enough. You would need to drop them a lot earlier to make the distance of the loop a lot longer to circle around it. And Bucky, unfortunately, not far from the drama either, and he might even be located by the sounds. Nightlight rotated towards this, but it seems like he didn't quite catch this survivor here. It's now going to be a hide and seek game, but we are going to be far away from completing another generator. What they could try do now potentially is that Bucky is hiding, trying to escape through the hatch here. So if you would be able to 4K2 on Eternal in the upcoming game, then you would not end up in a tie and instead take the win as Team Sinners because of that hatch escape. So that could be definitely a worth option here towards the end game. Jason now being picked up as well, so that would support the plan that Bucky is going for it. But with the Singularity and all his overview that he can have over the map, it would be a really, really harsh end game to play. Therefore, Bucky potentially opting to save the teammate one more time here, since both of them have just been hooked one time, and the unhook will definitely come through here. So Sinners fighting Sinners a lot longer in the game here. I would almost wish that is going to be at least one more gen, because they deserve that.
There really should not be another generator popping. If Sinners get another gen done, it's Nightlight griefing, if we're being real here. As Sweet Jason ends up being healed, I believe that was renewal on him, but now he's in Nightlight's sights. And Nightlight really in a position with only 2 survivors left. He can just keep putting people on the hook. He has cameras set up on both exit gates, so as long as he is positioned to close the hatch, there should not realistically be a way in which the survivors could get an exit gate done. And on top of that, we will also see that there are 2 cameras on every gate, so that 1 EMP is not sufficient to try and get them done. Bucky will be trying to die as quickly as possible so that Wee Jason can go for this hatch. He is dying here, but the stagger from the fall will actually be enough. I don't believe he's going to have enough time before the hatch opens, and this will be the pickup onto Wee Jason. Just in time to hear the hatch open next to him, but not in time for him to actually get it. That 4K2 being secured. This is where things get spooky, because trying to play for a 4K3 is a tough ask. Even getting that 4K2 is not something that you're going to be super confident going into. 4K1, sure, but you're going to have to bank on Eternal survivors making some mistakes, not having some teamwork quite there, and Eternal's probably one of the only teams I would never want to bank that happening on.
One of the most heartbreaking things in competitive DBD is when you are carried down to the basement and you hear that hatch opening, and you know that it's just a couple of seconds from making at least a last second turn, or at least pulling something great in the end game that you could potentially profit on. Therefore, so far, only Eternal being in the profit here with an absolute fantastic win condition that Nightlight set for themselves. 3 gens were completed, so Eternal can even ignore a 3-gen setup in the upcoming trial, and this is a very valuable thing on the Deadlock Saloon that can spawn a lot of dangerous 3-gens. Ladies and gentlemen, we will switch the sides and we will see you in a moment.
Welcome back, everyone. We are going to see some more Singularity gameplay on Dead Dog Saloon. We have Eternal survivors against, I believe this will be Wee Jason on the Singularity, and they have a relatively simple win condition. They just have to complete 4 generators. Now keep in mind, this is a set. We see 4K1s left and right and center. and this is such a good killer at securing 3 gens, but that is not going to work in this game. You need to hold at least 4 of them, so good luck to leave Jason on the Singularity. He will have his chase on Zaka straight away. The pallet drop will slow him down an overclock, but he will teleport right after immediately, keeping in mind Jason is not bringing that kid's all glove, so his overclock is not as long as it would be otherwise. We are seeing Jason really values this spent oxygen tank, so whenever he slipstreams survivors, they will be exhausted, not wanting to give them their exhaustion bricks, and especially balanced landing on this map being out of the picture means a lot of survivors working these elevated gens can be in a vulnerable position. Zaka getting zoned away from the pallets runs directly into Jason so that he can take his speed boost and make it to Shaq, but now this overclock teleport coming in again will force Zaka to burn Shaq pallet as well. Zaka just chewing through the map's resources, but it is necessary to delay this down, as Jason will just continue chasing him from one side of the map to the other.
And that's going to be now a little bit of back and forth here by Zaka, the double, triple, quadruple vault coming out and being stronger than ever into the next one, and that's going to be a stun as well. Jason cannot believe it. He can just knock down Zaka, and Zaka is like a safari. He's going back onto the other pallet. 2 generators in the distance already being completed, and Zaka, he keeps running to the 3rd pallet, and that generator coming out as well. Jesus, what's happening here?
I mean, one thing we've seen from Eternal Survivors is just unparalleled gen efficiency. If we remember this first match they played against Oh Boy, it was gens popping left, right, and center constantly. For every hook the killer got, they were losing 3 generators for it. The survivors just split exactly where they needed to be and cracking these gens, and now they only need 1 more generator to secure their win con. Yes, Nightlight handed them a very, very easy win condition to meet, but the survivors are not messing around. They want to get stages out of this game and send a statement. Zaka will get pulled, and now Jason is going to look for a tag onto Yvonne, but probably also these Spanish 1v1 players, not the people you really want to be chasing. But then again, on Eternal, who do you really want to chase?
Absolutely incredible what Eternal is delivering here today. Nightlight, Dan, Zaka, and Ivan just not having any mercy with Jason and Team Sinners here. That's going to be Nightlight in chase now right around here, and he does make the window in time. That is not going to be the injury, but it's going to be a very friendly vault into the killer, ending in another injury. Back towards the main building, though, the most disgusting resource on a DBD map, and he's going to make that window even with the ping difference. That's going to be enough. Jason is going to take the swing, and now the vault, but all of this is costing time, and knowing Eternal, there might be a few additional generators coming out in just a few seconds. Nightlight beautifully hugging the staircase here. That's going to be the vault through the window. Another team member even coming around now with the sprint burst when they are being found. Can someone stop Eternal and put this chaos to an end that is going on in the Dad Dog Saloon here? We are moving around the house. Ivan immediately pre-dropping this pallet, finding the next resource, and Eternal makes it look like it's the easiest thing of the world, smashing through the gens and going for the chases here. This is so beautiful to watch.
Yeah, toxic survivors, gen rushing and pre-dropping pallets. You hate to see it, but if you are a Singularity hater, this is one of those sets that you would just put on rewind to see this killer get punished. It is so difficult to play.
I will.
Of course you will. But we have Dan now trying to get that last gen done, but it does. Also, we have Zaka cranking out this other gen at like 85% on the other side of the map from Jason. There is just too much split pressure. Jason cannot be in every place at every time. This will be the unhook coming in onto Yvonne as the 4th generator is completed, but that will meet Eternal's win condition. They will be taking this first set and sending a statement, but we are not even playing for, oh, well, we're going to pop 1 more gen than you. We are playing for outs here. There are only 2 hook stages in the game, not even a tunnel out, and we are looking to have our last gen popped in very short order, as Jason will be hooking Yvonne. He does have pop interruption, but is he going to be able to get to interrupt that gen in time? He will be hooking close to it, but it is not in time, and Eternal have popped 5 gens as this 3rd hook stage comes in, and there are exit gates that are split. They are looking to get a 3 out at a minimum. I would say they can even play for 4 as Nightlight is starting a gate. We've got some body blocks coming in. Dan will take a tag. We also have Yvonne around here. But Zaka also coming in for a body block, and these survivors are not slipstream. Jason is playing M1 Killer Simulator. He sees a crow fuzz off in the distance with a heads up. But there is someone over here, and whoever is over here is probably someone who does not want to be found. It is Yvonne, who is injured. He is on death hook. If he is down here, it will be his death. The survivors here, I believe, will just take their outs and try to give Yvonne catch, but they can also play for body blocks to try and get him out of here. He does have an EMP. He will pre-fire that, cleanse himself of the slipstream, and take out that first biopod. He does now have a teammate here to give him a hit, and possibly more coming in, but Nightlight and Dan both being injured means Zaka is the only one who can go for this. Dan does get his reset off, which means Nightlight will be over there getting reset with Dan. Now the chase continues on to Zaka instead, who I believe he's played for a head-on here. No, he does not. He wraps around the shack. He is making his way towards the other gate. Jason switching to a camera to try and catch him off guard, but Zaka is not slipstream. So only Yvonne is the one who could be caught off by that camera, but now all survivors have been cleansed of their biopods. We have only 3 hook stages, and it looks like the survivors will be getting a 4 out here. An absolutely punishing first set from Eternal.
Absolutely, this is just insane, and the most dangerous fact about this is that the Eternal Survivor team will stay on the Survivor side for the upcoming trial, so this is absolutely going to be a devastating start for the second set. Sinners needs to find back in their motivation and in their mindset for the killer trial, and we'll see that one after a short break.
All right,
welcome back, everyone. That is a intro. You're getting the full service here. Cole, go ahead.
We've got our second set kicking off with Jason Spirit. I cannot wait to see how insane these ping hits are going to be with the Spirit swinging out of phase as Spitz is going to take that first chase away. Jason looks like he is willing to commit to this. Now, Spitz is playing Ada, a smart adaptation, playing a quiet survivor against Spirit, although that clip-clop of those heals is a little bit of an audio cue that the Spirit can play around. Jason is just going to sit there, wait for his power to come back, but that will be Spitz just dying in the corner as far away from these gens that his teammates are working as he can. Fairly clinical, but you maybe would have hoped to have a shorter or a longer chase rather for Spitz. But we have seen just how much the Generators Team Eternal can crank out for these hooks.
Yeah, now welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Spirit set with the second try. I'm going to talk here. Sorry for that interruption at this time. First hook stage relatively fast on Spitz here, and do we get in time to this generator? The answer is yes, and this is a very, very calming fact for Team Sinners here. Getting the pop goes to weasel kick into this generator is really, really important, so we don't see what just happened on the Dead Dog Saloon. Eternal just smashing through the generators like nothing. It's really important that we keep them under some sort of control, and Spitz getting the sword thrown into his back, and he slaps him with the D, a little tribute to our beloved caster Q there, and making it back towards the shack as fast as possible. Jason, though, on the tunnel streak, wants the survivor out as quick as possible, will get a little greeting by Zaka here, and has to deal with some blindness before carrying on to Spitz here. Will Spitz be able to work a little bit with the firepower? That's not going to work out. It's just going to be the famous comp corner coming out here, and the second hook stage as well. We do see 2 survivors working individually on the generators in the distance, a few percentages here, but in terms of tunneling one survivor out, Jason is actually doing good here.
Yeah, and Spitz with the shack pallet drop on the firecracker at least is able to get from one corner of the map to the opposite corner. This is typically how you want to play S-tier sets. You want to make sure that you die in the right spot so that your teammates can crank out the gens that are far away from you. It's crucial to break any possible 4 gens that might appear, and it looks like there might be a little bit of one around this hook, as Zaka, I believe, is working a gen sort of nearby. But Jason not quite willing to commit to a chase onto him. We've got another generator that's being highly progressed by Dan. The survivors are probably going to wait until last second to try and pull Spitz, but unfortunately, If the killer hovers here, Nightlight will not be able to come on over and give an STP. Instead, it looks like Zaka will be able to get that unhook without giving him a 1-for-1. This will be another chase coming on Spitz. Jason wants to get that tunnel out, and it is not easy to place out. Now, Spitz does have Urban Evasion. He's sort of forced push off the pallet. We are playing for pallet or a flashlight, and that is going to be the flashlight save. Now Spitz has bust. We are going to a third separate corner of the map as 2 survivors are cranking out gens, and we have another survivor hovering again for the save onto Spitz. There is another pallet here that you can die on and play for a save here. This is a very difficult position to play killer in, as this is the down, but Spitz does not make it to that pallet, so there is no flashlight save. We just is facing the wall. This will be the tunnel out completed onto Spitz. We are entering the 3v1, and that is why we are going to see Nightlight resetting Zaka over here with 2 gens left to complete. This is a set where we should be seeing 1, maybe 2 outs if the set is played out perfectly. We might be in there, but Zaka is caught out in the reset. Nightlight does not get to finish it, and now Jason is in a position to get a tag onto Nightlight as well. This is how you want to play out these. You want to split your pressure now that you have someone dead. Make sure everyone stays injured so they can't go for saves, so they can't really stealth away from gens. And Spirit, of course, in particular, being really punishing if you can get someone injured. Jason going to take a detour to pop those weasel this gen before he gets another one on this hook from Zaka.
Zaka being down here, Nightlight being injured, does feel a little bit like a potential for a comeback here, especially with the 3v1 here, but we do know that Eternal is very efficient on the generators, so we still need to be worried a little bit about the generators in the distance here. Zaka also in the first hook, so he has 2 minutes of hang time, 60% on the generator over here. Nightlight being healed now with the medkit going for the reset here, so Eternal also gone from any very quick down here that is potentially going to force a turnaround. Jason going to keep an eye onto the gens here. Very understandable decision since the pop goes to Weasel wants to find its application onto a generator. Are we going back to the shack immediately? Yes is the answer, because we're trying to force Zaka into the second stage, but it doesn't work because one survivor has already rotated in, and that is Nightlight straight from the reset with the medkit into the basement, saving the teammate, then working on the generator since he is healthy, and Nightlight trying to force the mind game there with the pallet, but coming out on the wrong side. Therefore it's going to be the relatively quick down here. Jason definitely playing this very efficient, and Cole, it looks much more confident than the first set we have seen on the Dead Dog Saloon, so I can definitely understand why Sinners came out picking the Spirit.
Oh yeah, this is definitely more of a wild card, especially on ping. Zaka getting caught out on the pallet, and now Jason is going to know for a fact, surely the other survivor is in that corner gen that just popped. He is going to go ahead and get the hook onto Jason. Now Dan is the last survivor standing, and if Eternal wants to get more than a 4K1, it is all on Dan to get to one of these hooks. You do not want to play a hatch game against Spirit. Now, Dan does have Fixated Sprint Burst available, which actually is a pretty good build for stealthing towards hooks, but it remains to be seen if Dan will be able to get to any of these hooks unseen, which teammate he will prioritize, or if he would just rather play for an exit gate here if they are not confident that they can make another generator completion. And it looks like Zaka might have failed a skill check there, I would assume deliberately, so the survivors of Eternal are accepting that this is going to go down to Dan and an exit gate, and Jason is able to just hold this hill to try and find Dan on the rotation. Now that Jason is certain that that is the place survivors are going to go for, he will just phase back to that hatch to try and close it, but he will want to make sure that he has his phase ready to go again once he kicks it, so that he has that mobility power, as this is now going to be Dan spotted out, surely.
We are going into the end game on the Wreckers Yard. Dan the man, fresh hook, 3 stages. Will they walk out of the door here with the hatch or the exit gate? And it would be insane if they make an out here, because 4K 1 gen on the Wreckers Yard, and especially on an S tier killer, is definitely something that can happen in the upcoming trial. And when you then, on 4K 1 gen remaining, have the better argument for yourself in terms of, well, we got a fresh hook out and you didn't, that is an insane tiebreaker for a set like Spirit. So getting the out here, would be definitely making a lot of impact here. So we can only hope that Dan is going to be able to achieve that. He's taking a good look around, not trying to move too early, not trying to be caught too early. Let's see what we can make happen here. Jason trying to find the best location between the exit gates. Dan still hiding behind the Rocky in the midsection, hasn't even gone too far towards one of the exit gates yet, taking a really slow approach here. And I really like what we see right now, and I feel like this reflects all the experience from Dan. He's not trying to escape the trial immediately. He wants to know exactly when the killer is seeing him, when he's aware, and now we're going to open the exit gate here. We do go for the famous strategy of keeping it on 15% so the first light doesn't pop off, but it's not going to be enough. Jason on the tail of Dan now. That's going to be the injury coming out as well here, and that's going to be the final run, the 4K1 call. That is definitely something that the survivors of Sinners can deal with.
Absolutely. We saw Dan playing this endgame so patiently, getting real fixated value, getting from one side of the map to the other, not actually being caught out by Jason, going all the way from one corner to the other. Honestly, that's impressive in itself, but yes, we are going to be seeing a 4K1 here, which means that Zaka is going to have to pull out a 4K2 to secure this set win, if that's what they want. That is a tall order. I do not believe you should be able to 4K2 as Spirit unless the survivors make some serious mistakes. And so this is now Sinners set to lose.
Absolutely. We will see if that's going to be a successful one for Sinners in the upcoming trial, or if we will need the Nurse set. Let's see what's coming out after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, Cole and me came to an agreement about who's taking the intro, and therefore you are hearing only me this time and not us screaming over each other. It's going to be Phenom, Bucky, Jason, and Sweetchild facing Zaka on the Spirit, and Zaka already found the first victim here on the fun bus, and that's going to be Jason taking the tag right here. Agitation, Sloppy Eruption, and Corrupt Intervention are going to be the tools of torture against the Survivor team that only needs to achieve all the generators being completed here, but Jason miscalculating a little bit on this pallet, and Cole facing a relatively quick down.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a mind game coming in from Zaka, a throwback to the old pallet mind game, except this time the Spirit actually has to use her power. It was enough to throw Jason off guard. He thought Zaka was going to commit to a full phase. He did not, so he ran back to the pallet and ran directly into Zaka's waiting arms. And now Phenom getting caught off guard, going for that rescue means he will take a tag. And where Jason is hooked is a little bit unsafe. It's a part of this Auto Haven map where you don't often have a lot of pallets or anything to work with. It is one of the unfortunate features of Auto Haven maps is how many dead zones you can get. And so if you ever end up getting hooked there, it can be problems team. As now Bucky will be the survivor who comes in to rescue Jason, as we do not quite have eyes on what Zaka is doing, but he will be coming to go back for that hook, and he can choose now to tunnel Jason, but he will instead opt for Bucky.
And we do see another whiff coming out from Zaka here. We have 3 injuries, but Sinners trying to waste as much time as possible before the second hook stage is coming in. We're going for the mind game. Bucky trying to run away from the pallet, but not against an experienced killer like Zaka. He will sniff that out, and that's going to be the down once again. A reset coming in from Team Sinners here, trying to prevent Zaka from taking downs too quickly. Bucky, however, is a fresh hook, so we do not see the optimal tunnel strategy, but we do see an optimal hook location, and that's achieved through the agitation that Zaka brought, being able and holding the power to carry the survivors towards the shack in the basement from almost everywhere on the wrecker's yard here. And it's going to be even more valuable later on when he can decide that he wants to hook next to a generator where he needs the regression on. Therefore, Zaka looking towards a good game for himself here. Second hook stage overall in the basement, very difficult, mostly ending in a 1-for-1 against the S-tier killers. Phenom slowly approaching here, not working on the generator right now. The other survivors, we can only hope, sit sitting on set generators in order to bring some progression up. That's going Sweet Child 85 and Jason 75 on 2 generators in the distance. That is still good, but potentially 3 hook stages in exchange for 2 gens, so-called. Zaka definitely with a good start here.
Absolutely, and keep in mind that although Spirit is an S tier killer, she's like Billy, almost treated like an S minus, where it's like, okay, you're getting mostly the S treatment, but you're not going to get all of the perks that you would normally get against a Nurse or a Blight. In this case, crucially, there's no Deliverance in play, so if you get hooked in the basement and your teammate comes to bail you out, they are not going to get a Deliverance for it. There is no free 1-for-1 in this game to be had. Jason is also the survivor they would like to have had tunneled. He is a survivor who has got Dead Hard and Decisive Strike, but instead Bucky is the one who will take this punishment. And it looks like Zaka is content to just camp this out, confident that these survivors do not have the generator progress required to make up for this, so he will be trying to body block Sweet Child from getting this unhook at all. Will it be successful? I think a second survivor, but they will just instead be going for a 1-for-1 now. And Zaka is actually not going to take the free down onto Ada. He wants to body block Bucky and secure this death. There is a timer going on. Bucky has got 10 seconds to go before he is dead. He does have Shack Power, but Zaka does successfully body block him for the entire duration. And since there's no DS on him, this will be his death.
Unfortunate for Bucky and Team Sinners here. Very, very early to lose a team member here. 3 generators remaining and already being restricted in such way. Therefore, Zaka now also being in a much more dominant performance here. Zaka going over towards this generator, catching it right before it's getting too much progress and finding the completion here. So we can only hope that the survivor is straight going back towards that generator here in order to make sure that there's no progress lost. Zaka was expecting someone in the basement and Phenom going into the shack here because Zaka was faking that he is coming around, and instead of going around the shack, he was phasing down the basement stairs to make it sound like he's coming from the back of Phenom, and instead he was still inside of the shack. Cole, this was a 500 IQ master play.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be one of those clips that we'll see in like those mashups from the end of the season in the playoffs. Look at some of these highlights.
Yeah.
That's going to be up there. And, you know, I remember seeing some very interesting basement plays featuring Zaka before. I remember some No-Ed Huntress clips. I do not want to run into Zaka at the Wrecker's Yard basement. And now we're seeing something that happened to Sinners in the last set. They entered the 3v1, they had 2 survivors injured, and it really came back to bite them once the 3v1 started. They weren't able to go for all the plays they needed to because they just didn't have the health states for it. Now Phenom will be healed. I believe that was renewal on him. But Zaka has Jason on Deathhook. Now, keep in mind, if they are able to get Jason out of the basement, you do not want to tunnel him. He has DS, he has Dead Hard, but Zaka really can afford to let Cyrus get one more generator done. He only has to secure a 4K2, and he's actually in a position to get that as Phenom getting caught a little bit off guard. This will be a 1-for-1. It looks like with Phenom sort of taking places here, although Zaka is going to try to repeat onto Jason. Now, it is very difficult to actually successfully hit Dead Hard on ping, and Jason sort of running back into the basement affords Zaka the opportunity to get the down onto him, and also Jason failing the Dead Hard. I think he wanted to force a locker DS, but now Zaka is getting 2 hooks here, and what is Sweet Child supposed to do? Because he's not going to let Jason get the Dead Hard off, or the DS off. Sweet Child cannot pop this last gen. Zaka has the liberty to check every gen on the map, kick them, make sure that they're not going to pop, and he's looking at possibly getting a 4K3 if he's able to find Sweet Child.
Yeah, this is very difficult now, and that was such a quick turn of events here, all triggered by this amazing fake Zaka did, going down the basement staircase and making it sound like he would go around check. Really, this 500 IQ plays really causing a catastrophe on the side of Sinners here, making sure that Zaka is getting into the absolute dominant spot. Phenom will die in the basement there, so that's going to be a 2v1 situation. Jason going to leave the trial as well, so Sweet Child would need to repair the generators, but as soon as the hatch is being closed, we have the end game collapse triggered, and then the generators are no longer able to be repaired. So that's going to seal the deal here. Eternal is going to smash it with a very, very strong 2-0 and is going to keep it up on the top of the standings with 100% win rate. On the other hand, Sinners on the bottom of the standings, unfortunately, with 0% so far. We talked about it earlier. It was really, really hard for Sinners so far. They have played against Eternal, Elysium, and Oh Boy in the first 3 weeks of Season 9. So therefore, other teams are later on facing these very, very legendary teams. Sinners is now done with them. They are going to face, let's say, much more winnable conditions, we could say, but definitely this is something to keep in mind when judging Sinners there on the... something to keep it up, to keep in mind. What am I saying? But we do see the final chase here between Sweet Child and our beloved Zaka, and Sweet Child actually doing a good job here and surviving longer than we thought. And for all the Sinners fans, therefore, in week 4, come back, support Sinners, because the difficult time of Season 9 is over. We are looking forward to see the amazing comeback throughout the season here.
Absolutely. Sinners definitely running the gauntlet in the first 3 weeks of games. They will have 0 practice next week. I checked out what the round robin is going to be. And we have Sweet Child at least going for a little bit of a chase, trying to get some more time and showing off, hey, you know, that Sweet Child was absolutely prepared to go into some spirit chases this game, but unfortunately just not really the survivor that was getting chased throughout the game. So a little bit unfortunate on that one, as Zaka will be putting her onto the hook. This will officially secure that 4K3. And I believe this is also the second spirit set that we have seen out of Eternal. This one went a little bit better, I would say. Sinners did put up a very good fight on the spirit set, showing us once again why this team likes picking these S-tier sets, and why, if we had gone to a tiebreaker, we would have been seeing that Nurse pick again. So I think going into these next matches throughout this round robin, we should see teams being very careful to let Sinners have the S-tier sets that they clearly want and have practice on.
Absolutely, and therefore also, especially for these S-tier killers, a big shout out to Sinners, because that was still a very, very entertaining performance. Entertaining was also the game earlier between Calamity and Zero Practice, so thank you for these two teams as well.